Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Money Mike, and we are going to be talking business, the Hurt business, or wait, the Hurt Syndicate. That is right, because Bobby Lashley, MVP, are free agents, meaning they could show up wherever they want. And my prediction is that they're going to show up at AEW All In next Sunday at Wembley Stadium, and they're going to look at reforming the Hurt business or the Hurt Syndicate according to new trademarks, which I will go over in a second. And that begs the question, who in AEW would be a good fit? Will Bobby Lashley bring anybody from WWE who happens to be a free agent, potentially, with him? Will he have people that are already on the AEW roster? I'm going to go over all of that. Plus, I want to talk about his comments about the difference between Triple H and Vince McMahon, because I do find that very interesting and telling about the situation that led to his departure in WWE, and the fact that I would say there's a chance that he could go to TNA, but I think because of their working relationship with WWE, I think he's going to lean more towards AEW. So, before we get into all of that, though, you know the drill. Hit that like and subscribe button as I produce weekly wrestling content here on this channel. And I will be going to AEW All In. I will be flying out on Tuesday to do some sightseeing before All In on Sunday. And I am looking to probably do some travel vlogs. And I may do some videos while I'm there. Obviously, when you look at his last year or two under Triple H, it's kind of been a lot of misses. And it's one of those rare negatives in the Triple H era. You know, there's a lot of positives, obviously, but the misuse of Bobby Lashley has been a very strange one. Because Bobby Lashley could have been built up as a babyface. You know, he could have been there alongside Cody Rhodes, alongside Randy Orton and Kevin Owens to help Cody Rhodes fight off the bloodline. He also could have turned heel and could have been a very worthy contender for Cody Rhodes. So it's weird to me that Triple H didn't really see that in Bobby Lashley, because Bobby Lashley does talk about the difference between him and Vince. And obviously, you know, if your employer, obviously, if you get a new manager, and you know, we've all been through this, we all have jobs where you know you're comfortable with one manager, and then a new manager comes in, and you're not really having those same vibes that you had with the old manager, and you start to kind of fall out of place. Yeah, and you're going to be disgruntled, you're going to be upset. So, you know, I kind of don't look at MVP's comments kind of like, oh, it's, you know, oh, we should hate Triple H. It's just your typical stuff that we've all been through when we get new managers. Bobby Lashley, the very same thing, as he talked about the difference between Triple H and Vince McMahon, and the really weird part about this, and I is, to me, I just don't get how you don't have anything for Bobby Lashley. Look, I get it. Triple H is building stars. He's building younger talent. You know, Braun Breaker. You have Gunther. You have Carmelo Hayes on SmackDown. Obviously, you have a pipeline of talent down at NXT. So obviously, Triple H, he may look at like a Bobby Lashley, kind of similar to Edge, where again we kind of saw with Edge where he went to AEW and kind of showed that hey, he could have been used more. WWE had no interest in using Edge uh, more as a full time competitor, and we've seen him be a full time competitor up until his injury back at Double or Nothing. So, kind of a baffling decisions, but again, let's go over what Bobby Lashley said in an interview about the difference between Triple H and Vince McMahon. Bobby Lashley was on the Laboratory podcast, and he talked about that the difference between Vince and Triple H from a booking standpoint, and this is what he had to say. I had a connection with Vince. Vince understood me. Vince was big on the show. He looked at people that were stars. He saw that in me. There were a lot of little nuggets that Vince would give me throughout my career and tell me different things. Vince looked at me like I can tell Bobby works his ass off. I can send him anywhere around the country to represent the brand. He looked at me like a star. I like Vince. I haven't really had too much of a connection with Hunter. Hunter has his guys, which I'll get into in a second. And I've tried to, but we haven't really worked enough together to get to know each other. And, MVP's had his share of comments in regards to Triple H and the booking, but I do want to talk about what Bobby Lashley said here. And again, we've all been there. We know if you like one manager at your job and then a new manager comes in and that it's like rebuilding an NFL team, right? If you fire the old general manager, you bring in a new general manager, the new GM is going to want his head coach, he's going to want his own players, and he's going to clear out the people that were from the old regime. So, that's kind of what I feel like what happened with Bobby Lashley and what happened with Edge was Triple H is just looking forward to the future and he's building new stars and prepping them to get ready. Guys like Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes. You have Gunther. You have people. People there that are already in the pipeline that are ready to go down in NXT, and I think Triple H just kind of goes, looks at their ages, Bobby Lashley, Edge, and goes, you know what? They had a good run. We're gonna let them go. But yeah, again, I think this just comes down to the fact that hey, the new boss comes in, and you just kind of fall out of order, out of place, and basically that's what happened. Obviously, like I said, Bobby Lashley could have easily been in a top storyline on SmackDown alongside Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, fighting the Bloodline, even though that was one of the biggest missed opportunities was reforming the Hurt Business and having the Hurt Business go against the Bloodline when it was Roman Reigns before Roman dropped the title, and having Lashley versus Roman for the title at some point, and the Hurt Business going after the Usos and all that stuff. So yeah. So obviously all of that is going to lead to what I think will happen next Sunday, which is him showing up at AEW All In, and who could he bring with him, and who could be in the Hurt Syndicate. The first member of this of the Hurt Syndicate is a free agent from WWE who I think will be in AEW at some point, is Ricochet. MVP talked about having Ricochet in the group. He wanted him in the group initially, but He was told no, and I have a feeling Tony Khan is going to go, huh, WWE want to let you do this, but hey, come over here and I'm going to let you do this. So I think it's going to be Bobby Lashley, MVP, Ricochet. But I'm not done. Because I think, to me, one person I want to see in this group that would fit perfectly is Hook. Because I desperately want Hook to get away from the FTW stuff. I know that he's Taz's son. I know the whole FTW legacy. But at some point, you have to build Hook to have his own legacy, and I think you can get him away from that by aligning him with MVP. And I know he's doing this thing with Samoa Joe, so maybe you could put Samoa Joe in there too. But I think I would like to see Hook in there because you have to kind of build for the future of AEW, and I think allowing Hook to get away from Jericho, get away from the FTW title, and allowing him to go down his own path and or create his own path within the Hurt Syndicate, working alongside Bobby Lashley, I think would be a fresh breath of air for Hook and give him a nice new creative direction to work with. And then we move on to a guy that I think would be perfect when he comes back from being injured, and that is Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, obviously, he is injured, but I think you could put him in the group. And I tried to do this in a way because, like, I think evolution, where, you want to have, the Triple H of the group, which is obviously Bobby Lashley. And then you want to kind of build out to where you have two guys that can kind of be developmental for the future of AEW, and that's kind of why I put Hook in there also, because AEW does need to start relying on building their own homegrown stars rather than relying on WWE free agents. And Willie Hobbs is another AEW original that could benefit from this. Now, I would say Ricky Starks, but I think he's going to be bound for WWE. I wouldn't be surprised, depending on when his contract's up, if Ricky Starks shows up at NXT on the CW network, on the premiere, or one of the premieres, first two shows. So, I'm going to go Powerhouse Hobbs, but I'm going to go with a twist. Ricochet is a temporary member until Powerhouse Hobbs comes back. Because Ricochet can come in, you can have him as faces for a little bit, but then I would turn him heel and have them kick Ricochet out of the group and let Ricochet kind of be the babyface that he is. Even though I do think it would be kind of fun to see him as a heel or see if he could pull off being a heel, but, I don't know. I think Ricochet would be a good fit, but I think having Powerhouse Hobbs, Willie Hobbs, whatever you want to call him, come in and pretty much take him out and be like and replace him at some point would be a good story beat, because then that gives Ricochet something to do while you're building up Powerhouse Hobbs within the Hurt Syndicate. And then last but not least, I'm going to give them a female member, because that's another thing MVP mentioned. He said he wanted a female member in the Hurt business, but WWE said no. So the final member of the Hurt Syndicate is Athena, the current Ring of Honor Women's Champion. I think, to me, she's been down in Ring of Honor way too long. She needs to be, I guess, quote unquote, I guess if you want to call it, called up, called up to AEW. And I think this would be a perfect fit to have her join the Hurt Syndicate. It would put her in a featured prominent role immediately. And you can have Athena go right after Mercedes, go after Britt Baker. You could have her go up against Willow Nightingale. You have options. Obviously, Mariah May would be an option if she wins the Women's Championship off of Toni Storm, especially if you do debut them as faces early on. And I know she's a heel right now, but I think you could turn her face and have Athena kind of, you know, go after Mariah May after she beats Toni Storm. I think that would be a good match. Plus, Athena, Mercedes. I mean, sign me up for that one. But yeah, that would be my Hurt Syndicate in AEW. Bobby Lashley, MVP, Ricochet temporarily until Powerhouse Hobbs comes back from injury. Then Powerhouse Hobbs can replace Ricochet, and they can kick him out of the group. And then Hook, and then Athena. That would be mine Hurt Syndicate in AEW. Comment below, let me know what you think of my version of the Hurt Syndicate in AEW. Do you think I left somebody off that should have been in the group? Comment below. And thanks for watching. You've been watching Ringside Cinema. And I'll be back with more wrestling content later this week. Ringside Cinema, living out the dream. Lights down, time to go. Cheers for heroes we know. Ringside forever bold. Wrestling never gets old.